What's up once again, y'all?
What's up, y'all? We have a fun topic today, and it was actually requested by one of the girls from the XJW meetup. Her name's Shauna, so shout out to Shauna for giving us this idea. We are going to talk about Mother's Day.
Yeah, that's coming up this weekend.
Okay, and we're going to see what Jehovah's Witnesses and what the governing body has to say about Mother's Day. But before we even talk about it, I do have to say, we've always celebrated Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Like, there was never a time that we didn't celebrate Mother's Day. We always got, like, the flowers and, you know, all those things.
Right.
And you'll see why, because what the governing body has to say about Mother's Day.
Just like everything else?
Yeah.
Bogus.
Bogus, okay? So let's get into it.
All right.
All right, so we looked it up on jw.org, and of course the first place that we went to was the reasoning from the scriptures, but it literally says the same thing as this awake that we found, which is called Are They Harmless Observances? Awake of 1974. This tells you how outdated the information is, because that was what now? 50 years ago?
But this is the thing, is some stuff that they got rid of from, like, of course, the 1975 being the end of the world, certain stuff they're going to get rid of that. And then other stuff they're going to keep.
Yep. And that's exactly what they did here. And they have not made like an updated information about it, even in the reasoning book. So we'll just get into it. We'll start reading it.
Now, quick disclaimer. This is not that apostate material they be talking about. This is jw.org. We're just showing y'all what it says and how ridiculous this sounds. So y'all can read the whole thing. We're going to jump down to the bottom. But what of Mother's Day? Surely it does not have roots in ancient paganism, someone may say. Does not the Bible command children to honor their father and mother? Yes, the Bible does command children to honor, obey, and respect their parents. But nowhere does it advocate the commemoration of a special Mother's Day. On the origin of such observance, the Encyclopedia Britannica 1959 edition states, a festival derived from the custom of mother worship in ancient Greece. Formal mother worship with ceremonies of Cybele, let me know if I got that wrong, Aurea, the great mother of gods, were performed in the Ides of March throughout Asia Minor.
Okay, so we're about to talk about this, but I'm just going to finish reading the rest of the paragraph so that then we can really talk about it, okay? It says, regarding the adoption of Mother's Day in the United States, the New York Times of May 10th, 1953 reported, in spite of the popularity of Cybele and sporadic occasions honoring mothers during the Middle Ages, it was not until 1914 that the proper combination of sentimentality, idealistic promotion, and hard business sense impelled the United States Congress to designate the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day. In view of the false religious background of Valentine's Day, May Day, and Mother's Day, is it not clear that Christians in the first century would not have commemorated these days? So then, is it not right to shun such observances today and thus obey the Bible's command to quit touching the unclean thing? Whether you are eating or drinking or doing anything else, do all things for God's glory. They are so annoying, and we're about to tell you why. We're about to break down why this is irritating. They're hypocrites.
Yeah, even, okay, we'll bring a lot of this up later, but saying they don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so leave it at that. If you don't know for sure,
right,
that means you don't have an answer.
Exactly.
And this is where Jehovah's Witnesses mess up, because when they don't have an answer, they make up an answer.
Yeah.
They make it law. Nowhere in, the Bible doesn't say anything about social media. Done. Therefore, you shouldn't say what you can and can't do with it.
Yeah.
Just like the beard thing. Nowhere in the Bible did it say you can't have a beard, but they made that law.
Yep.
Along with many other bogus teachings that they end up having to tweak later on down the line, because if you don't see it in there, then leave it alone.
Yes, it is not clear to them, is what they said. And so just like they have based these principles on other things that they have now changed, like the beards and, you know, oh, they weren't actually talking about disfellowship people. They're actually talking about apostates. Like, you see how they just take a principle and they run with it? It's no different with these holidays, like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, and May Day, which I think that's just, I don't know, Memorial.
Spring.
I don't know
I'm
what
not
it is.
sure.
Maybe Memorial Day. I'm not sure.
Oh, I had a random thought.
What?
That went along with that, but I forgot what it was. It'll come back to me.
Okay, well, whatever you think about it, talk about it. But no, my whole point about this is that everything is based on ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And things from ancient Greece are based on ancient Egypt. And the thing about it is the New World Translation has nowhere to come in and say, oh, these are all of the new rules, because they're the newest Bible.
For real.
You know what I mean? There was holy books before they came around. What?
It was Jehovah's Witnesses is not in the Bible.
Facts.
At all. But their whole religion is based off the word Jehovah's Witness. Y'all made that up.
It's literally been made up by one man at the beginning of all of this.
Yeah.
He used to be Catholic. So if you're gonna actually, right? Wasn't he Catholic?
Catholic or Seventh-day Adventist, one of those. I know he was some type of Christian.
He was a different type of Christian.
Yeah, decided, you know what, I'm the chosen man.
Yes.
Even though I'm a white supremacist, I'm the chosen one, and I'm gonna create this religion with my money from my business
and my own rules.
Yeah, my own rules.
Don't you guys see how crazy that is? Like, this entire religion, which is why it's a cult, because it was based off of this one man, okay? Who took all of these ideas and ran with them and made his own ideas. So we're going to get into some of the history of ancient Greece, because the thing about it is, if Jehovah's Witnesses were to go off of their own, you know, teachings and saying, oh, we don't do this because this was a festival, or this was a ceremony that they did in ancient Greece or ancient Egypt, then they wouldn't do anything, because
for real,
all the things that they do is based off of something that came before them. Before the Bible was ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, and they had their own religious texts. You know what I mean? They weren't even like religious texts. They were just ancient texts. You know what I mean? And they had many gods. So that's why there's so much hypocrisy within this.
Yeah, they just picked one of the gods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's break it. So much of like ancient Greece's theologies are based on ancient Egypt. But even when it comes to ancient Greece, they had their own Bible, and it was called, you guys can look this up, it was called Codex Vaticanus. And this is where the Christian Bible was derived from. It was derived from this Bible.
And you know something JT always says?
What?
Want it to make sense, got to put it on the timeline.
You do.
So this stuff in Greece is way after what was going on in Africa. And of course, people from Africa will travel in the whole world first. And then somehow things start to pop up in other areas. And then this is where your Christianity comes from. But as far as in religion, they paint it as this was the beginning. No,
it's not.
This, especially the King James and things like this, it's a 2,000-year-old book. Humans have been here much longer. Google will tell you 200,000. It was even longer than that. But if you want to go with 200,000, you still got to fill in those blanks.
Exactly. Ancient Egypt was before ancient Greece, and they have like overlap, you know what I mean? But regardless, a lot of things that they got were derived from ancient Greek or ancient Egypt theology. Okay? So all these new teachings have come from ancient teachings and have just been spun around. And we'll show you guys how, like, later on, but even ancient Egyptians, they had their own books, and it was like two separate books that they had. They had the Book of the Dead and the Book of the Living, I believe. So it was basically like, this is the book that they used for people that were transitioning into the dead, and people that were coming forth by day, transitioning back to the living. And both of the collection of the ancient Egypt books, they were like a whole collection of different spells and things to help the human to transition from different life stages, you know, which is also crazy, because we all know how spells and all of those things are demonized, you know what I mean, and all religions really, you know what I mean, all like Christian religions, all these things are demonized, but this was the roots, you know what I mean. This was way before Christianity became a thing. And then next we have the baptism. Baptism was a practice that was used in ancient Egypt.
Long before.
Yes, long before Christianity. You guys can fight me about it, but it's the truth. You can look it up, okay? Right. So baptism comes from Egyptian mythology. Horus was baptized in the Nile River, and it was a ritual basically to give him his powers to rule over the living and the dead, okay? This is like real mythology that you guys can look up. And what's funny about Horus is that he has a lot of similarities to who? Jesus.
And these are the things that were here before Christianity, and this is what a lot of people don't, especially Jehovah's Witnesses. They feel like they religion, because Charles Russell painted this belief that, okay, yeah, stuff happened thousands and thousands of years ago, and then there was a gap, and then I popped up in the 1800s because God selected me.
Yep.
And that, so they are automatically ignoring the in between, because it was the Bible that he presented to us as Jehovah's Witnesses, and then everything in between don't matter because all the witnesses died.
But
and then we were brought back to life. It
does matter. History matters. And so much of our history has been wiped away, and it's for good reason, because the elites want to control everybody, okay? So these things history has been wiped away, but it's still like you can go and find different things, try to puzzle things together. But the truth is, like, real history, I feel like, is very difficult to find because none of us were here or can remember thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, you know? So
your best bet is, instead of letting somebody tell you this is what it means, believe it, just listen to everything.
And do your own research.
Yeah, look for yourself and see what makes sense to you, but don't let somebody threaten you and tell you you're not allowed to read this, you're not allowed to read that. Because truth, like we say, truth makes sense. All this time that we was Jehovah's Witnesses, we call it the truth because it sounds cliche, that was a thing to say.
Yeah.
But stuff always didn't make sense. And when you ask real questions, don't worry about it. You got manipulated, like something was wrong with you. Oh, we'll tell you later. Or Jehovah reveal that later. No, if something don't make sense, it don't make sense.
Yes. And what's so messed up is that we really do this like play on words nowadays, because even with this information about the old gods and goddesses, like it's labeled as ancient Greek and ancient Egyptian mythology.
Right.
But it was a theology at that time, you know what I mean? And actually, if people are still, believing it and tapped it, then it is a theology. People can also call Christianity a mythology because nobody saw, Noah build the ark, or who was it that got swallowed by the whale?
Like Jonah being swallowed by the whale.
Nobody's seen those things. That can be considered a mythology, but in this day and age, we call it theology. So that's why I'm making the difference between the mythology and theology, okay? They like to try to make things look not like you can't prove it kind of thing, credibility. Credibility, there it is. My mind works sometimes. But we're even going to get into some of the gods in ancient Egypt so that you guys can see like the similarities between Bible-based gods, because a lot of their gods have been based off of this.
Right.
And one main one would be the Trinity. So I found this pretty interesting, but in ancient Egypt mythology or theology, there was the Horus, which he was the one that was baptized in the Nile River, and he could represent Jesus in the Bible. He was baptized in the Nile River, and a goddess named Isis is the one that had given birth to him without having to have sex.
As if the story of
Jesus and Mary.
Yep. And remember, this stuff was here before Christianity.
Yes. And even if you go to like Catholicism and then believing in, the Holy Trinity, these gods in ancient Egypt used to go by the Trinity. Right. And it was Horus, Isis, and Osiris.
I believe so.
Yes. Horus, Isis, and Osiris. Okay, so Osiris was the god of the underworld, but he could give life and also take life. And it's just funny seeing the contrast between like Osiris, and if you hear god of the underworld, you would immediately think the devil,
evil,
right? Yep. Like that would be the comparison. But he actually gets compared to Jesus a lot too, because he could take or give life. We're gonna have to make another video about our idea about that. But anyway, so there's Osiris in this Trinity, and then there's Isis, which she is like the female entity, the goddess of fertility, goddess of creation, the one that gave birth to Horus without having to have sex. And then there's Horus, which can be looked at as Jesus, or the sun, and he was the Lord of the sun,
the sun god.
Yes.
And you hear a lot of people, if you are really tapped into that stuff, they say S-O-N or S-U-N over S-O-N. Yep, exactly. The return of the sun.
Yes. And so if you guys just look up when the first Christian Bible was made versus when ancient Greece and ancient Egypt came to be, like it's like 3000 BCE for ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, you know what I mean? And then you have the Bible that we know today. Not to mention the New World Translation. When was that made?
For real, that's new stuff. And not to mention the King James was, I don't know if I can say the word, but he had a boyfriend. And he was also a pedo. He was all of these things, and he writes this book saying, don't do ABC. And you get a lot of comments where they go, Jehovah's Witnesses, they leave the Kingdom Hall and then they just stop being religious, because you have already looked at multiple religions, especially when one is called the truth. And you're like, all right, well, everything else is wrong and this is right. And when you realize this is wrong, you learn to question everything. Every single thing you come across, and you start to notice similarities in each one.
In every religion. And even going back, you realize that, like, man, these people who are like trying to control people, they really try to keep you detached and cause so much separation. But in reality, all these religions have so many similarities because they're based off of the same ancient scripts.
Yep, it's just been custom made to benefit each person pushing each religion.
Or maybe each area, you know, whatever the case may be. But I feel like religion has just become something to keep the masses in bondage. And that's just what it is, you know? Especially whenever people use it as, this is the truth and the only truth. Like, you have to have a discerning eye with anything that comes your way.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, if you don't, you will literally just fall for the okie doke. You will fall for everything and anything.
And you learn, when you start to learn new things, one of my favorite things is the person telling me this, what are they benefiting from telling me this? And a lot of times with religion, they getting paid.
Yep.
All right, they telling me something, but I have to come out my pockets, or it's a threat involved. If you don't follow this, something bad gonna happen to you. That's literally extortion. That's supposed to be illegal. Suge Knight was extorting people in the 90s, and these pastors and all these people do the same thing, to where you got to pay money, or if you don't follow these rules, there's some type of consequences from it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think recognizing what religion was made for, because at a point there was no such thing as religion. Yeah, and
the thing, when you're inside a religion, they teach you the opposite, that this was always it.
It was always
and
around.
Anything outside of this is evil. And so automatically, especially in our community, a lot of our ancient things, or a lot of things that our ancestors did, was automatically evil. And not to get too sidetracked, but that a lot of religion goes with white supremacy. It's hand in hand, because you notice women are always put down.
Yeah.
And everything, all the women in the Bible, they try to play like they were important. They played important roles. They was the sixth man on the bench. They were there to support, or they were there to help out the person that was really in charge. But you can't pretend like the woman isn't the creation of life.
Yeah, like bring life in. Literally bring life in. And I think that was actually one of the commandments at the beginning, whenever, you know, Eve messed up or whatever. That was one of the punishments that they gave the woman, was having to be in submission.
And even that, the world being destroyed was a woman's fault. Like, all of these things. But people, I always say, take what you read and then take what you see.
Yeah.
And pretty much every regular family, the most respected person in the family is always the grandma.
Yep.
Like, grandpa get his respect, but grandma is always here.
Yeah.
It's always the woman. Your mama.
She's the nurturer. Yeah. She's the one to bring the family together. You know what I mean? Like, a grandparent, the woman, is the one to like really be the rock of a family.
Yeah.
The grandfather is too in different ways, usually by the same means, like protection and provisioning and everything, and you can rely on your grandpa. But the grandma is the grandpa is the one to be like, come over to my house on Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not
the
like
grandma's
a
love
role.
is a lot more upfront, and the grandpa, he love you, but he not as lovey-dovey about it. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's like a man, you know? But it's just crazy.
It is, but I guess wrapping all this back together, Jehovah's Witnesses say how pagan this is, but literally all their beliefs is based off of
paganism.
Greek things, Greek paganism, as they call it.
Yep.
Yet they do weddings, wedding rings. Wedding rings are pagan roots.
Yep.
All right, wedding.
Baptism.
Yeah, baptism. Not to mention blood sacrifice. That is, it don't get more demonic than that. It's sacrificing a person's blood and drinking it and passing it around. So they pick and choose which ones. And then when you ask them about wedding rings, oh well, there's not enough detail on how pagan it was.
Obviously, there's not enough detail about this either. All they know is that it was a festival about this. But like it said, in 1914, it changed over from being a festival of the gods to being a more sentimental thing with your mother. Like, what is the problem?
And they pick and choose.
They do. They pick and choose
which ones they want to keep around and what they don't.
Yeah.
And then I don't like how, all right, will Christians back then participate in, celebrating the mother? Christians in the Bible back then participating in slaughtering people. Literally murdering people back then in those days by the thousands, according to these religious teachings.
Exactly.
But at the same time, giving your mother some praise is a no-go.
That's a problem. But it wasn't a problem back then to go to war and bring me this man's head on a platter and
all of this stuff.
Like, it's just so wild. So basically, to bring it all together, they have no biblical standing for saying not to celebrate Mother's Day.
They don't.
Okay? They're just coming out their butts with anything.
And they reach so much to say, you don't want to worship. You're not worshiping your mama. You're taking time because, of course you appreciate your mama every single day, but you get so caught up in daily life. And you raising families and working and all this other stuff. It's nice to have a day set to where if you ain't gotta worship your mama and bow down and hey mom, let's go get something to eat. Hey mom, I'm about to come over and kick it with you for the day. That's something as simple as that. People being condemned for that.
Because you're commemorating your mother, but you do the same thing and you commemorate Jesus Christ, and Jesus to Jehovah's Witnesses is not a god. You know what I mean? He's just the Son of God.
I just thought of something too. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
They worship the circuit overseer. When the CO comes, listen. Y'all know what we talking about. When the circuit overseer come, everybody make sure. Matter of fact, everybody comes to field service at the Kingdom Hall that weekend. It would be like that. Let's make sure that y'all got your return visits ready. Make sure you invite invite your Bible studies to come see this your family. Make sure you invite him and his wife over. Make sure we cook for him. Make sure we take him out to eat and pay for him.
You get all this special treatment. Which it's no different from like a Mother's Day or a Valentine's Day or a birthday. There's no difference. You're just taking one day to give somebody a little extra special treatment. You know what I mean? Your mother, or if it's your birthday, or you and your significant other on Valentine's Day. You know what I mean? All of these days have ancient roots, either in ancient Greece or ancient Egypt. But so does baptism. And guess what we do on baptism day? You get special treatment. Like, everybody comes up, congratulates you. You are always in remembrance of your baptismal day.
Right.
You post it as a memory. You know what I mean? Oh, I got baptized today. You know what I'm saying? Like, please.
So they can't say you can't do it because it has pagan roots, but also do things that got pagan roots.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's why they're hypocrites.
Definitely. But we just wanted to share that with y'all. And we got more. We'll, matter of fact, run y'all through some stuff we got coming up. Just a few of them. Charles Russell was a con artist that, speaking of Greek mythology and being able to read, he said that he could read all of these different texts. And when he was in court, they presented him with, I want to say, like Hebrew and some other languages, and he he froze up. You get what I'm saying? So when it comes to these translations, that's something to talk about. It's some videos and came out about how they pushing this poor agenda, which we kind of covered before, but we got some new stuff with this one. Yeah, so it's some heat on the way.
Regretting baptism. We'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
And honestly, shout out to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day. It's almost your day.
Yup. Shout out to my mother. She's still disfellowship. Thankfully stay disfellowship. Mom, don't go back. Hopefully you wake up.
Weak.
For real. And on that note, you know, we got to present every time what we got for them.
Our healing journals. We have the normal version and the female version.
Yep. So whichever one floats your boat. If you got to hide what you're reading, go with the Pimo. Not go with this one because it say the CULT word right there on the front, and the description is down below.
Yes. And check out, do research, y'all. Do research. Seriously. Like, if I can encourage you guys to do anything, it's to educate yourselves as much as possible and look at everything with a non-biased. Yeah,
just be unbiased. And look, you got to be willing to be wrong. That's how we start to gain so much information because you don't know what you don't know. And look at everything. We're not saying you got to believe everything, but just look at it. Look at every single thing you come across and go, that's interesting. And just keep looking. And something is going to make sense to you once you start to look at everything. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, honey.
Yup.
And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram at Awaken Truths IG. Hit us up on there. We're getting back to the messages, y'all. We can be a little slow on those sometimes.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. And shoot, what else they got to do?
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Peace.